Hello, movie lovers. Today I'm going to continue on with my series on the films of 1972. 50 years ago, 50-year anniversaries. Last month, the month of February 2022, I did Westerns. This month I'm going to turn to black cinema, and there was quite a few films in 1972, surprisingly enough, that featured all black cast and or directors and or writers, screenwriters, and and this is the beginning of blaxploitation. Blaxploitation was big in 1972. I'm going to be talking about Superfly, one of the blaxploitation movies of the era. But today I'm going to start out this journey with Lady Sings the Blues, and this is a film, a biopic on Billie Holiday with Diana Ross playing Billie Holiday. It also stars Billy D. Williams in a really fine cast. It's directed by Sidney Furie. It's produced by Berry Gordy, and Berry Gordy was the owner of Motown. He was responsible for all those groups. The Diana Ross and the Supremes was certainly his number one attraction. Every time a single came out in the 1960s from the Supremes, it went right up to the top 10, if not the top of the charts. And he not only is the producer here, but from what you can gather from the supplements, that he was sort of a co-director of this movie. And one of the things about the films of 1972 that you quickly see is this is a male-centric world of 1972 in the movies. There was hardly any female-centric movies. Lady Sings the Blues is a very rare occurrence. And as I say, this was the sort of the beginning of the heyday of blaxploitation, and which were basically crime movies about drugs, centered around drugs, urban crime. Lady Sings the Blues, however, is a traditional Hollywood type biopicture, but with the exception that this is about a black singer, and almost everybody in the cast in the major roles are black. And there was a female, Pam Grier. This is sort of the beginning of Pam Grier's career in 1972. She made Black Mama, White Mama, but the following year she made Coffee, and that was a big success. And there were other female-centric blaxploitation movies, but basically it as well was a male-centric world. And so the thing that everybody was really curious about in 1972 going to see this film is, can Diana Ross act? Because she had never been an actress, and this is a major role of a major motion picture. And the movie begins with behind the credits, we see Billie Holiday, Diana Ross playing Billie Holiday, is strung out. She's in jail. She's being sort of dragged to her cell. It's a small padded cell in which she is thrashing about. And then we cut to her close up, and then we go back to her memories of when she was a 14-year-old girl and growing up in Baltimore. So she's pretty convincing in this opening. It's more or less a montage, and then now she's 14 years old. Now I don't know how old she was, maybe around 30 years old in 1972, but that's always tough. We're going to see somebody of that age playing 14 years old. And surprisingly enough, she's absolutely convincing as this 14-year-old girl. And she's working as a maid in a brothel. And then eventually she gives up. She sees no hope for ever making any money, so she eventually herself becomes a prostitute. And this transition is really well done, and there's a scene where she finally gives up this life, and she's determined she's going to become a singer, and she's got to get out of this life. And her last John is played by Scatman Crothers in an absolutely hilarious little cameo. He plays a character named Big Ben, and he promises Billie that he's going to give her the time of her life. So this whole first half of her rise from these beginnings to becoming a major singer and nationally famous, a recording star. This is really the strongest part of the movie. But we do see the elements of racism that were part of that era. And she's a black singer with an all-white band, and they're traveling around the countryside in a bus. They come to a restaurant. The rest of the band can go in the restaurant. It says whites only. She has to have her food brought to her. She witnesses a lynching. In one town, there's a Ku Klux Klan march that surrounds the bus, and Billie has to go into hiding. So definitely we're seeing the experiences of what black people went through in different parts of the U.S. And then she has success, but then she's introduced to heroin, and much of the second half really focuses in on her addiction and her struggles and the toll it takes on her. Of course, this is very dramatic type of subject matter, and there's been other Hollywood biopics that this movie is very similar to from the 1950s. And it's a long movie. It's 144 minutes, 2 hours and 24 minutes, and you begin to feel a little bit because the addiction Billie Holiday's addiction is become so much the focus of the movie, and there's no doubt in her. I mean, they weren't exaggerating anything there, because she did die at the age of 44 from cirrhosis, and the toll it took on her health, both the heroin and alcohol, but it does get a little bit. And what the film doesn't do, and I don't know anything about Billie Holiday, and very little, but so I read up on some sites to get her biography, and I don't think the film really really emphasizes much the fact of what a big star she was. I mean, she had like hit records, and many of them, and her influence as a singer. She was both jazz, blues, but she had a very unique style, especially in her phrasing, and she was very influential with other singers. Frank Sinatra acknowledges her as one of the main influences on his singing style. We don't get a lot of that in the movie, but we do get a lot of Diana Ross singing. And then the question becomes, not only, the first question would be, is she a good actress? And the second question, is she going to sing like Billie Holiday? And she doesn't. And she doesn't have any ambition of imitating Billie Holiday. But she says in one of the supplements that she lived with the songs for about a year before they actually recorded them. So she's not singing like Diana Ross and the Supremes. She's not singing like Billie Holiday. She's not imitating Billie Holiday, but she comes up with something very good. I mean, these songs are good. And the songs are good, and her delivery of the songs are good as well. And then we get some real good performances around the edges. Certainly not in the edges. One of the main performances is Billy D. Williams as her manager, is based on Billie Holiday's third husband, who was a technical advisor on the set. So he's a bit whitewashed, but I mean, he's just, a good man. And perhaps that was a good thing to see, the way a man, a black man treats a black woman. He was supportive and always trying to get her help and keep her career on track. And I mean, it's a typical Hollywood stereotype, but why not? Sidney Furie is also in the supplements, and he says sometimes a cliche is good. We should just avoid cliches because they're cliches. They were also making a commercial film, And audiences really don't mind cliches all that much. Maybe the critics don't like it much, but audience will like it. And Billy D. Williams was so good looking. I mean, it's just amazing. And there's a great scene where he enters the nightclub. He's coming down these steps in this white suit. I mean, he just looks, you know, Clark Gable times 10. You know, and Billie Diana Ross is like, she falls to the ground in wide-eyed admiration of this, you know, this great beauty of Billy D. Williams. And the film also is I don't know if this is his first film, Richard Pryor, and he was only hired for, I think, for one scene. He plays a kind of composite of different friends that Billie Holiday had, but he was so good that they expanded his part, and he has a couple really good scenes with Diana Ross, and they became very close, and there is this commentary, and it's Berry Gordy and Sidney Furie, and they clashed often on the set, and you see in the documentary that's included, you see them arguing with each other, and evidently Sidney Furie had quit 2 or 3 times and had to be coaxed back, and because this was Gordy's money. This was a Paramount movie. They saw the film, what they had shot of the film, and the Paramount brass said, you know, no more money. They were up to $2 million. No black themed movie so far had made more than 500,000. They were $2 million in. They told Berry Gordy, that's it. You know, you're over budget, and we're not putting any more money into this movie. So Gordy had to pay them back that $2 million to finance the film himself. So I mean, this was, you know, a movie where he was really going out on a limb financially, and the commentary is really good. Sidney Furie is really a funny guy, and there's lots of great anecdotes about the different elements of the movie, why they did this, why they did that, and the challenges that they faced. And this is from 2005, so we're about 33 years later. And then there's also a behind-the-scenes documentary. And this is really good too, and we get a lot of Diana Ross from 2005 looking back and looking absolutely spectacular in this interview, and looking back on the role and how she approached the role, and what you get a sense of is this great labor of love that everybody had for this film. They felt they were doing something important, that this would be the first kind of traditional black movie that white, you know, that movies with about white singers with white cast had been done before, with actors that people could really identify with, and more than just the you know, the blaxploitation that was becoming so popular. So overall, you know, it's an important movie for sure in the history of black cinema, but and it's got many good scenes in it. Again, I like the first half. The first half, I think, is absolutely superb. But mostly, you're going to see this movie to watch Diana Ross. I mean, she is absolutely great in this movie. She only made a couple more feature films, The Wiz and Mahogany. That was it for her feature film career. I think she appeared in a couple television movies, and she did have a lot of specials on. I remember seeing lots of specials that, well, maybe not lots, but several specials that she did for TV, variety show type specials. So that'll wrap this one up. I think next one will probably be Superfly. We'll get into some blaxploitation. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who listened. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.